Now speaking, Siren Feisty, Vice President, Investor Relations. I attended Pan American Silver's Q1 2023 conference call on April 14, 2023. The call included forward-looking statements and referenced non-GAAP measures. I reviewed the cautionary statements in the MD&A, news release, and presentation slides which were available on. Now speaking, Michael Steinmann, President and Chief Executive Officer. Pan American's first quarter of 2023 was transformational due to the closing of the Yamana acquisition on March 31. This resulted in an increase in scale and quality across their portfolio. Total revenue for Q1 was $390.3 million, including 779,500 ounces of silver and 11,300 ounces of gold sold. Net earnings for Q1 were $16.5 million or 8 cents per share. Adjusted earnings were $21.2 million or 10 cents per share. Cash flow from operations totaled $51.3 million. Silver segment all-in sustaining costs were $14.13 per ounce and $1,196 per ounce for the gold segment. Capital investments for the year include upgrades at Jacobina, construction of a new dry stack tailings storage facility at Hiron, and installing a paste backfill plant at Bell Creek Mine in Timmins. They are expecting to produce 21 to 23 million ounces of silver and 870,000 to 970,000 ounces of gold, with all-in sustaining cost between $14 to 16/ounce for the silver segment and $1,275 to $1,425/ounce for the gold segment. A dividend of 10 cents per common share was announced in March. Integration of former Yamana assets is progressing well and they have started harvesting $40 to $60 million of annual synergies. CIBC World Markets analyst Cosmos Chu inquired, "Have you seen the Mexican peso strengthen since the start of 2023, and if so, has it had an impact on costs such as labor, power, and consumables? Currently, is your assumption of 18.75 to 1 closer to 17.5? Michael Steinmann replied, "Cosmos, Michael has stated that foreign exchange rate fluctuations have a significant impact on costs, with $600 million in local currencies for the original Pan American assets. This year, he estimates an inflation rate of 5% and an increased push on wages and less so on energy costs." Ignacio will provide more information regarding Mexico. Ignacio Couturier replied, "The Mexican peso has been one of the strongest performing currencies over the last year due to high interest rates in Mexico. 24% of Mexican peso costs are covered by a hedge program detailed in the MD&A. Managing this has been tough, but all mines operating in Mexico face this challenge. Opportunities to lock in favorable rates will be taken advantage of." CIBC World Markets analyst Cosmos Chu inquired, "Have you looked into the changes to the Mexican mining law passed by the Senate on April 29, which include 15 to 30-year concessions and a 5% contribution to social funds? Are there any mixed reviews regarding its retroactive application and potential effects on La Colorada skarn?" Michael Steinmann replied, "We are closely monitoring the situation as changes arise. So far, we know that it applies to new concessions and there may be impacts to our two existing operations. However, we don't have any definitive data yet. We anticipate more changes in the near future once all the details are available." CIBC World Markets analyst Cosmos Chu inquired, "I already have a concession for the La Colorada skarn, so am I able to extend it?" Michael Steinmann replied, "I have discovered that the La Colorada skarn is located directly below our current producing mine. It is situated on the same concession stand as the current production." CIBC World Markets analyst Cosmos Chu inquired, "Have you projected that Q4 will be the best quarter of the year, and what are some of the key drivers for this back-end weighted production?" Steve Busby replied, "I have identified 3 sites, La Arena, Jacobina, and Cerro Moro, as having a back-end loading schedule with higher grade golds and silver in Q4 and a little in Q3. This is part of their mine sequencing plan according to their current mine plans. El Peñon is also expected to yield higher silver and gold." CIBC World Markets analyst Cosmos Chu inquired, "Do the all-in sustaining cost guidance numbers include NRV adjustments and will they increase due to heap leaching at El Peñon?" Ignacio Couturier replied, "Michael mentioned a positive NRV adjustment in his opening remarks, which is a calculation of recoverable amount on our inventories. This was mostly seen in the gold segment related to Dolores and was driven by an increase in metal prices from December 31 to March 31. Going forward, NRVs are excluded from guidance numbers as none of the new operations have heap leach pads." CIBC World Markets analyst Cosmos Chu inquired, "Have I covered all the questions I have about Yamana? TD Securities analyst Craig Hutchison inquired, have discussions in the Phase 2 consultation process for Escobal been ongoing for about a year? What is the current status and is there an estimated timeline to move forward to the Supreme Court? Michael Steinman replied, I have been running activities in Guatemala for less than a year and can provide more details. Sean McAleer replied, the Ministry of Energy and Mines, MEM in Guatemala has published a timeline on their website, which includes information sharing, evaluation of information with consultants and a series of meetings. These activities will take place from May 19 until October this year, with monthly meetings. There have been delays in the past, so caution is advised. TD Securities analyst Craig Hutchison inquired, I attended a workshop on consultation and engagement around natural resource development projects. The presenters explained that the consultation phase is typically followed. Sean McAleer replied, I believe the intent is to reach agreements in a timeline, however, the exact parameters and activities that need to be discussed are still open. TD Securities analyst Craig Hutchison inquired, I understand that the Yamana assets are expected to generate substantial free cash flow going forward. Is the priority to pay down the RCF over the next couple of quarters or will you be building up cash reserves? Michael Steinman replied, our capital allocation priorities have not changed, our focus this year is to pay back our line of credit. We are actively pursuing high-quality projects with a number of them in the pipeline and will continue to return capital to our shareholders in the form of dividend. John Tumazos, very independent research analyst John Tumazos inquired, have I been successful in reducing the debt from the Yamana acquisition to a level you are comfortable with? Historically, what is the amount of debt that you would like to see on the balance sheet before committing to major projects such as La Colorada Skarn, Mara Project, or La Arena Sulfide? Michael Steinman replied, I'm comfortable with our current debt level and plan to use excess cash to pay back our line of credit. We also have two bonds, one maturing in 31 and the other in 27, that received investment-grade ratings from S&P and Moody's. Technical teams are continuing work on projects like La Colorada Skarn and La Arena Sulfide, where oxides will last until 2026. Big capital spends will come later. John Tumazos, very independent research analyst John Tumazos inquired, on March 31st, when I booked the acquisition for the Mara project, what was the carrying value? It must have been at least $400 million, given that the cash balances from the project were over $200 million. Michael Steinman replied, we have $200 million in cash balances assigned to Mara, of which we are the majority holder with over 56%. Ignacio can provide more details. Ignacio Couturier replied, Hi John, I'm Ignacio. In Note 9 of our financial statements, we assign values to all new assets as part of a purchase price allocation exercise. The carrying value of Mara Net is approximately $1.3 billion, which is 26% of the total value allocated to properties. The total acquisition cost for Yamana was $2.8 billion, which is the net value of assets and liabilities assigned. John Tumazos, very independent research analyst John Tumazos inquired, have I considered the possibility that 3 of my mining projects could be ready for development within 2 years, Escobal with a green light, La Colorada getting closer to being ready and Mara with strong interest from Glencore? How would I manage such a positive scenario? Michael Steinman replied, we are currently conducting a lot of work at the La Colorada Skarn and Mara mines, owned 56% by us and 44% by Glencore. This year, we will be presenting the P and sharing the numbers with everyone. However, it is not possible to build a project in 1 year due to the amount of technical work that needs to be done. There is an approved budget set aside for. Ignacio Couturier replied, I mentioned a value of $1.36 billion, which is the 100% value. We own 56.25% of that value. Michael Steinman replied, I am expecting Mara's value to line up perfectly with wonderful projects coming into our pipeline, however not all at once. It would be a nice scenario if they were to come in due time. John Tumazos, very independent research analyst John Tumazos inquired, can Glencore finance Mara's needs without any additional work on our part, given their long history of saving the day for partners such as Century Aluminum, 43% ownership, and Polymet, 70% ownership? Michael Steinman replied, I have been working with Glencore for a long time, both in my current role at Pan American and previously. We acquired the former Yamana assets only 6 weeks ago and are focusing on optimizing our portfolio going forward. More answers will be available as the year progresses. Adrian Day, asset management analyst Adrian Day inquired, is the intention to dispose of any Yamana assets, and what is the current process for consultation regarding Escobal? Sean McAleer replied, the process of consultation regarding Pan American Silver Guatemala's subsidiary includes three principal actors: the government of Guatemala, the Xinca Parliament and the company. Meetings occur approximately once a month, with the next meeting scheduled for May 19. Information sharing and other activities are outlined on the Ministry of Energy and Mines website and linked to the company's website. Michael Steinman replied. Sean thanked Ignacio to answer the question about cash costs. Ignacio Couturier replied, in Q1 2023, our cash cost for the silver segment was 12.19 and for gold it was 1,120. This is due to inflationary pressures and the cessation of mining operations at Morococha. Michael Steinman replied, we have owned our assets for approximately 6 weeks and are in the process of thoroughly examining them. We are familiar with the producing assets, and are also evaluating a variety of exploration projects across multiple countries, including some advanced ones. We plan to make disposals of some of these assets in the upcoming months. National Bank financial analyst Don DeMarco inquired, have there been any efforts to reduce care and maintenance costs for the current year, which has a budget of $100 million? Is there potential for dispositions or other cost-saving measures on projects other than Escobal that could potentially eliminate these costs altogether? Michael Steinman replied, we are keeping the Escobal operation in great shape by spending money on care and maintenance. We are also spending money to prepare the Mara project for technical studies and move it forward. Morococha is another operation we are looking at, exploring alternatives to find a solution for care and maintenance. There is no timeline yet for when the green light will be given. Michael Steinman replied, I'm pleased to report that this quarter was a success and I'm excited for the rest of the year. We now have all the assets from Yamana in our possession and we are producing. We will be discussing Q2 in August so everyone can prepare for a